So we're going to talk about how to write a literary analysis paragraph with this step 5 prompt, can everyone achieve the American dream? Together we're going to walk through how to write a claim, how to write context, how to choose the best evidence, and how to analyze that evidence. So starting with the prompt, can everyone achieve the American dream? Here's one way you could write the paragraph. I'm going to start by writing a thesis. According to blank, the author's blank, everyone can or cannot achieve the American dream. So based on the directions from step 5, I already know that I am writing about Lorraine Hansberry's. I'm going to put in the author's name. And of course, we are reading A Raisin in the Sun, so I'm going to write that in as well. I'm putting anything that I change into blue, so you know the difference between what was given to you and what you need to write. Everyone can, or not everyone can, achieve the American dream. Because this is part of my claim. Remember, a thesis or a claim needs to be debatable. It needs to answer the prompt. So someone could argue that everyone can, or not everyone can achieve the American dream. In my opinion, in my thinking based on reading the play, I think everyone can achieve it. So I'm going to take out not everyone can. And then my job when I'm writing, I need to prove that everyone can achieve the American dream. So I'm going to pause here, and on your own paper you can write out your own thesis, whether or not everyone can or cannot achieve the American dream. Once you have it written, press play. The next part of the paragraph that I need to write is, this play is about blank. This is the context. What's weird about literary analysis, in this type of analytical writing, you always need context. Whereas we talked before that context depends on the audience, whenever you write literary analysis about a book, you have to include context. So I'm going to give some background on what this book is about. I might write, this play is about a family in the 1950s in Chicago, struggling to move into a new house. I could even add another sentence saying, this family faces housing segregation. That gives some background on what the book is about, and that's what context is. It's just some background on the topic. Press pause here to write your own context, and then press play when you're ready to move on. The next part, we're looking into some evidence. It says, the author shows that everyone can achieve the American dream when the text reads blank. So for this, I'm going to go to my example evidence bank, which you should have a copy of. I'm going to look and see what evidence most proves the idea that anybody can achieve the American dream. I remember from our discussion of Act 3 that the plant, Mama's plant, really represents the family's ability to overcome and achieve the dream regardless of where they're coming from. So that's what I'm going to use as my evidence. So I'm noticing this quote right here is when the plant is first brought up. I'm actually going to just take this exact quote, I'm going to put it into my evidence because I think it supports what I'm trying to prove, that everyone can achieve the American dream. My evidence now says, the author shows that everyone can achieve the American dream when the text reads, looking at her plant and sprinkling a little water on it. They spirit all right, my children. Gotta admit, they got spirit. Like this little plant that ain't never had enough sunshine or nothing to look at. And I want to make sure I always put the page number as well. Hansberry, page 508. So take a minute now. Choose your own evidence that proves your thesis. Copy and paste it in, or write it into your evidence section of your paragraph. Then press play when you're ready. The next step is possibly the most challenging part of the paragraph that we're all working on. It's the analysis. The analysis has to back up the thesis and connect it to the evidence. So the first part of analysis, I want to explain what it means. This quote, why in the world why am I talking about a plant? I could say, this means that Mama's making a comparison between the old wilted plant and her children. Whenever you break down evidence in literary analysis, you want to think about specific word choice. So I'm looking back at the quote, and I'm thinking, talks about spirit. Talks about ain't never had enough sunshine. I'm going to say this quote uses the word spirit because I think that's going to help me answer or support my claim. This quote uses the word spirit, which means, in this case, the energy needed to thrive, both for Beneatha and Walter and for the plant. The plant means the energy needed to thrive. I think this word itself gives the feeling that both the Youngers and the plant will need to use all of their energy in order to grow later. Or maybe instead of grow later, in order to accomplish their dream. And then I would add, just really specifically tying it back to the claim, all this supports the claim because the plant symbolizes Beneatha and Walter's inner strength and determination despite their lack of sunshine, or in this case, opportunity to grow. And by opportunity, I'm relating it back to the idea that the American dream, everyone has the opportunity to succeed. So in that analysis, I took one part of the quote and I broke it down to bring it back to this idea of everyone can achieve the American dream. So pause here and try to write your own analysis. Feel free to ask a question if you have one, and then press play when you're ready. So we're actually going to skip down to the end where you ultimately restate the thesis, and part of that reason because in the next section, this right here, you're just choosing another piece of evidence that backs up your claim, and then again you're analyzing it just like in the first example. If you're unsure of what to do in those, go back to the beginning of the video and rewatch the evidence and analysis section so you know how to write those. But right now we're going to skip to the bottom. At the end of a good analytical paragraph, literary analysis, you're going to restate the claim. So here's what I'm going to do for my own. I'm going to say, ultimately, a raisin in the sun, that's the title of what I'm analyzing, reveals the idea that, and I'm just going to restate my thesis again, answering the question to remind the reader what I was trying to prove. Reveals the idea that anyone can achieve the American dream despite hardships. For my second quote, I would have needed to choose evidence that also proves that. And then in the end, I'm just restating that for the reader. So now that you've worked on your own paragraph, make sure it's entered into your step 5, and then that step is completely updated. When you're ready, move on to step 6.